Happy Wonder Wednesday, everyone, and welcome back to our Floxies community. I am super excited to see you all back in 2025. I hope that you had a fantastic end of the year and an even better start to the new one. If you're here watching us right now, as you know, I always like to see who's in our audience. So do drop a message in the chat. And if this is your first time watching one of our events, we are Floxies community, an international community for women in UX, UI design, and webflow development. We have a super active free Discord server, and we also host weekly. We try to do them weekly, but live weekly live streams on a Wednesday. And we also have lots of co-building and co-working opportunities within our Discord. But on top of that, we also use something really cool, which is a metaverse where we built our virtual office. So let me show you what that looks like. This platform is called GatherTown. You might have seen it before, and this is where our community lives. As you can see here, we have a little co-working space, classrooms where we host our workshops, co-working desks where our Floxies can get together and focus. And I'm now walking towards our auditorium where we usually host our events. Hi, everyone. I was just saying hello to the people watching on YouTube and all the other social media platforms. This is obviously our first event of 2025, so I'm super excited. And I'm even more excited and happy to have such an amazing guest like Ivy here. Ivy, is it Ivy Malik? Am I pronouncing it correctly?
That's right. You got it right.
Oh, amazing. I love that. Ivy, I've heard so many great things about you. You're here to help us boost our confidence and to help all our Floxies here stop underestimating themselves. I try to do that every single day in our community, right? I'm any of these girls here best cheerleader. I love them all so much. They're so talented, yet we've been active for just over 3 years at Floxies, and I see them struggling with imposter syndrome and all the amazing things that you're going to be tackling today. So, Ivy, before we get started with your beautiful presentation, I would love to learn a little bit more about you and actually how did you even end up becoming a business coach? Tell us more about your life.
At risk of repeating myself, I actually put a little bit of that in the presentation, so I won't go into the details of that. What I do want to touch upon is how you're talking about how everyone's underestimating themselves. Why do you think that is? Like they're underestimating their value, their worth, themselves completely. What are the trends you're seeing?
You're asking me or you're asking them directly?
Yeah,
You're asking me. From what I see, well, sometimes I see them maybe underpricing their projects. I know the skills that they have, and whenever I see the sort of clients that they get approached by, or the sort of relationships they have with these clients that are really, really taking advantage of their kindness, basically, sometimes. Um, that's really infuriating. But luckily, we have this amazing community where we can all address those red flags together and be like, actually, hold on a minute, because this shouldn't happen. That conversation shouldn't be led that way. You can take control over what's going to happen next. So all those sorts of things. But or just in general, people telling me that they don't feel ready to price their projects over 5K or 10K, or approaching those high-paying quality clients. And I know that they totally should, and could, because they can.
Because you see their actual work and they have this set behind it. Absolutely. And I feel like a lot of people have this skill. They know what to do. They probably even have skill before going freelance or having their own business. They've been doing this for quite a while. And yet they feel like they cannot charge so much. And I think the bulk of the presentation is going to give the skill set that you need to actually have the conversations in such a way so that it doesn't even become a question of whether you're valuing yourself or not. The mindset aspect of things, I don't think in such a short period of time, I don't think we can touch upon everything, but what I want people to walk away with from today is that if you just put in a few of these questions that you can ask and different ways of looking at the actual sales conversations, the question of value won't even come up in a way where you're questioning yourself because you're just having a good conversation. So that's what I kind of hope.
Brilliant. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And so you mentioned you've prepared some a presentation, you've got some slides. So if you would like to pull them up,
I shall do that.
we can have a look. And welcome to all the Floxies joining us here today.
All right. Should I kick off?
Yep, brilliant.
If that's working, yes, it does. Okay. Well, as you know, I'm Ivy Malik, and I'm really excited to have you all here. So, what I'm about to teach you today, or what you're about to learn, are some of the reasons why you're stuck and how to actually have the sales conversation. I think that's where I wanted to focus the presentation. And I'm excited to share these nuggets with you because at this moment, you'll be going to go down a path, you'll have a choice of which pathway you want to go down, either the old way or the new way. And once you know this, you won't be able to unknow it. The knowledge I'm about to share with you are the same that my clients use, and it's what Josephine did. She wasn't getting sales calls for months and months and months. And then in the period of 1 week, she got 5 sales calls. She booked 4 of them. And you'll be able to do this as well. All without feeling salesy, without getting ghosted, without having to justify your price, without the fear of rejection, and most of all, without giving discounts, because that's not the place I want you to be in. I'm Ivy Malik. I'm the Creatives Business Coach with over 16 years of experience in business.
And I'm going to go way back in time when I graduated from Edinburgh University with a master's in psychology. I then moved down to London. This is my handsome, gorgeous man who I then married in 2016. We both wanted to start our businesses, and I left the charity to start my restaurant. That's where I started. And he turned his award-winning side hustle design agency into his full-time gig. And if you looked at his business from the outside looking in, it would look like a huge success. He had clients like Google, Eastpak, and Carlsberg, but it was really tough. He would send proposal after proposal, only to be met with multiple rejections and losing out on to the bigger agencies. I'm sure you guys can resonate. Lucy, I think your mic is hot, by the way.
Yep.
All right. I wanted to help, but as you know, when you're running your own business, you're spinning many plates. So everything that I did, it just felt like I was just putting plasters on a sinking ship. I remember this one time so clearly. They were pitching for this gig, and it was worth over 100K, and they made it to the final round. And they lost it. They lost it in the end. And I knew that if they could only make a few tweaks to the way that they were communicating, the way that they were pitching, the way that they were having the sales conversation, they wouldn't be missing out on these sales opportunities. So while he was struggling, I was thriving. I used my psychology background to train my teams. I helped them understand the buying behavior and to sell without being pushy. And my husband, he was getting more and more disillusioned with his business. You may even relate to how he felt. He felt crushed. He felt disrespected, undervalued, really underappreciated. Some of the things that we talked about earlier, just now. He felt frustrated and clueless about what to do. And even though he was winning awards for the work that he did, he started questioning his love for the industry and his passion for design. And he kept wondering, what is it that others are doing right? And what's he doing wrong? And I'll tell you more about that later. But the business was not making enough. And he had to make the redundancies that nobody likes to do. So he had a team working for him. He had high studio rent. He had demanding unaligned clients. It was a hard moment because the last thing he wanted was to get a full-time job. He felt like a failure. And it was at this lowest point I finally had time to properly help. But it was too late. Or was it? Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. His drive had fizzled out and he was ready to let go of the business. And this was 7 years ago. And it was around about the same time we were expecting a baby. So I sold my restaurants. I changed my stressful life to a calmer one. I'd always promised myself that I would leave at the top of my game, and I did. Baby was born, business was sold, and there was time to save his business. We regrouped, created a new plan. We changed his business model, his sales strategy, and alongside the pivot, he revived his passion and his business was back on his feet. Shortly after, one of my designer friends, and you asked me how I got into coaching, one of my designer friends complained about how she had all these really low paying clients and she was annoyed with it. I jumped at the chance to help her because I didn't want any of my friends to suffer the way my husband did. Like, he was so close to giving up his business. So I was like, okay, let's do this. And she went from making 800 a day, which I know is really good, to making 10K for only 2 hours. And I thought to myself, if I can help one person have this result after only one chat, what might I be able to do with some proper training, a proper program? And this got me really buzzing and excited, and I wanted to help more people. And so I did. And I'm about to show you some results. You can, if this is recorded, you can save it and, look at it in detail later. But essentially, most of the people were just making more money in their business, whether it's 20K months or a 6.5K deal that is their first deal ever. And I openly share this framework in other communities like this and Christo's The Future. And I think it's time to just dive into it. All right. You're likely feeling exhausted and frustrated because you're not getting high paying clients consistently. And I bet you've got the creativity and the expertise to help these clients stand out, but everything you try for yourself isn't working. You don't know what to say, so you try to use sales scripts, which also don't end up working because they make you sound like a robot. And the moment you veer off the script, you still don't know what to say. You watch a lot of YouTube videos and Instagram content, talks like this, download freebies. You're just doing everything you can possibly do to up your game, but you're still stuck. And I want to change that for you. I want to help you go from feeling frustrated and deflated, the way you're feeling right now, to getting crystal clear clarity. And by the end of this presentation, you'll know exactly what you need to do. You'll know what you need to change, and you'll be able to release the frustration to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I usually say that if you want to charge more than 3K or more, it does require a call before signing the client. And here are the 4 things we'll cover today. We'll kick off with the 5 biggest mistakes designers make that kill their sales. Look, I know that getting projects with a healthy budget will make all the difference between your business taking off and your business being stuck in the mud. And what I see time and time again are creatives doing things they think will help close a sale, but it actually is the opposite. It's killing your business. I want you to become aware of these mistakes so you can stop wasting your time. And the first one is that you think you're not getting the client because you're too expensive. And this is going to rub people the wrong way because people insist that this is why you're not getting the client. But from my experience, most creators are introverted. They hate sales. And you hate the idea of losing the sale more than anything. You hate talking about money. And when it comes to sharing the price, you'll either worry about the rejection and price yourself lower just in hope for the yes. Or in some cases, you're so awkward, you won't even talk about the price on the call. So instead, you end up sending the price with a proposal. Hands up if you've done this before. And then when you get ghosted, you assume it's because of the price, which just isn't the case. And I'll show you how to fix this later. Our second biggest mistake is not asking the right questions. You know you're not asking the right questions when the clients are nonstop talking. I mean, I've had calls like this. I was not always good at this, what I'm doing now. But what they're saying is not relevant. They're talking about irrelevant things because we haven't asked the right questions. And the reason you're listening is because you've read somewhere that sales is all about listening. So you listen and you're actively listening, and that makes sense. The trouble is, remember, if you don't ask the right questions, you're listening to useless information. And worse still, if you can't or don't know what question to ask, the client will end up taking control of the call. The third mistake is sending potential clients to your website so you can sell from there. And I know I'm risking rocking the boat a bit in a room full of Floxies. So look at it this way. When an inquiry comes in, instead of suggesting to get on a call, you send them an email or a DM directing them to your website or maybe your portfolio. This means that you apply all your efforts into making sure that your brand is aligned and your website is beautiful and functioning. And of course, you need that. That is an important element. But the trouble is, when you don't end up selling off your website, you end up redesigning or rebranding your website again and again. And this is a distraction, which keeps you from focusing on the things that actually result in new clients for your business. The fourth mistake is relying on referrals. And don't get me wrong, I love me a referral, and I love it for you too. Let's do a reminder of how the referral game works. Someone who already adores you tells you to go, someone who already loves you and adores you, they tell their business buddies about you. The referral then comes to you, ready to buy and easy to convert. And that's the biggest problem here. You don't have to do any selling, as they were already sold to by the referrer. Now imagine a new cold lead coming to you. If you have the conversation with them as if they were the referred lead, you won't convert them. The trouble is that when you rely on referrals, you're at their mercy, because when the referral stops, so does your business. And when cold leads come through, you haven't learned the necessary sales skills to actually be able to convert them. Which leads me to my beautiful mistake number 5, which is not getting enough sales practice. Most web designers shy away from selling, so they never really learn how to sell or get to fine-tune that skill. You guys are probably practicing your art all the time, but are you practicing your sales? It's no wonder you dread it. How can you expect to be good at something you don't understand nor practice? Let's play this out. If you were told right now to fly this plane, you'd probably say no. There's no way I'm flying a plane. But once you start learning the theory, you do the simulation, and then you go off with a co-pilot, and you go off on your own. Now that you can fly a plane, you can go anywhere you want, because practice makes progress. And here's a roundup of the mistakes. But I want to do a quick check-in on the chat. How are we doing? Is the speed too slow, too fast? Just let me know, because I can go either way.
I'm loving the pace so far, and I feel like you're such a great magnet. I'm just like drawn into what you're saying, and yeah, I can see thumbs up. People seem to be following okay. Yeah, it's all good. Lots of thumbs ups.
Amazing, thank you. Well, then I think we should talk about the McDonald's selling trap. If you're like most creatives, you've probably built your website, you worked on showcasing your work, you've perfected your portfolio. Sorry, that's hair in my mouth. How attractive. All right. Also that your work can be doing all the talking for you. And deep down inside, you worry that if you actually speak to them, you'll screw up your chances of making the sale. Similarly, you'll do the same by posting a case study or adding blog post that position you as an authority. You may enhance your SEO score, which drives people to your website. Or you're active on social media, you're doing daily posting, treating your Instagram grid as a portfolio, all in the hope that your work speaks for itself, resulting in sales. You even try listening to the online gurus and create lead magnets, hoping that someone will like your freebie and then buy your services off the bat. You productize your services and design attractive, cool named packages with a fully automated inquiry form. Everything is well embedded. And you love the idea of converting leads in your sleep. Who doesn't? I mean, yes, but the reality is that you don't. In fact, you're probably losing sleep for no sales. You're banking on making the direct sale on the website. And you're okay if there's an email or DM contact. Yet you avoid picking up the phone or jumping on a Zoom call to speak to a human. And this is the approach I call the McDonald's way. It works really well for low-priced, high-volume business models. This does not work well for high-quality services like branding and web design. If you think about it, you desire high-paying clients, but you position your services as if it is a cheap commodity. Let's take Rolex as an example, whether you like the brand or not. You can't even buy a Rolex without visiting a shop in person and registering the interest. I know this because I don't want to buy a Rolex, but I did want to see if this was true. Can you buy a Rolex? No, you can't. I would say it's about 13 months ago, I registered interest in buying a Rolex, and I still haven't been able to buy the one that I registered an interest for. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Ivy, I can design a premium looking brand. And I'm sure you can. No matter how premium your branding, the way you're selling by avoiding the sales call just isn't going to work if you want to charge the higher prices. What you need now is a process to convert cold leads into clients now. And I want to share the client conversion strategy that will enable that. And then rather than relying on portfolios or constant social media posting to do the selling for you because you're afraid of being that icky, pushy salesperson, all this does is leave you exhausted and deflated from lack of sales, desperate for more, and to be honest, desperate for any type of client. And we don't want to be pushy. Instead of pushing the client into the sale, we gently guide the client through quality, insightful conversations that provide clear understanding for them in what they need that leaves them feeling reassured enough to ask us for the sale. This is called conversation selling. You get to be yourself. It gets to be easy. And you have full control over how the conversation flows. And when you take this approach, you're able to take a lead who may have come on a call with a budget of 5 to close at 10K instead. All because you were able to have a valuable conversation which is beneficial to the lead. That's exactly how Gwen moved her client from 2K to 12K. And it wasn't just any client, it was a dream client of hers. She literally would have done the work for free. But I also know what you're thinking. You're like, Ivy, I don't want to do the call. I don't know what to say. Or you're worried about messing it up. And I get it. I hear you. It can be really scary. But it's usually scary because you don't have a system or a process of how to do the calls. Once you understand the process, your confidence increases, your energy transforms, and the client can feel this. You'll become magnetic. And there are 4 crucial questions that clients consider that can make or break the sale. And you'll want to write these down. These are the essential questions that need to be answered on the call. And the first is, do they understand what I need? And by the way, when I run through these, they're all going to make sense to you. You're like, yeah, this makes sense. That's because sales makes sense. It is actually easy. Simple. Maybe not easy, but simple. This is the fundamental question. Do they understand what I need? Clients really want to feel heard. They want to feel understood. And this is how they're assessing you. Do you truly grasp their challenges, their goals, their visions? They want to feel assured that you do. And the next question that they have is, can I trust them? You've probably heard this before, but trust is a huge factor in any business relationship. Clients are evaluating your credibility and reliability. So how does this look like for them? Well, it can vary from person to person. Some may look for a proven track record. Others need to feel reassured that you have the capability. They may look for professionalism or expertise. Each person has a different criteria of trust, and your line of questioning can help establish what that is. The third question on their mind is it worth the risk? Clients are looking to weigh up the value against the cost. And here's a news flash. The cost isn't always the financial kind. And please remember that. They're looking to see what their return on investment is. The art is to shift the perspective of cost to an investment, be it time or money. And the next one is the most important of all. And interestingly, it is the most devalued of all. Can I work with them? Every type of service business that requires an interaction needs to satisfy this important question. It will determine whether you will get the client or not. It is as simple as that. This is also the top reason to actually jump on sales calls. They're always asking themselves, consciously or subconsciously, can I work with them? If they like you, they're probably willing to overlook some of the other missing criteria. Sean is brilliant. He used to sell via his website, I think around 3.5K, but within 2 weeks of us working together, he learned about the 4 questions. Sean got an inquiry, and instead of selling the way he would normally, which was to just send them to his website, and they would probably have bought something for 3.5K, he invited them on a call and used a conversation framework. He ended up getting the contract signed for 10K, his first ever high-value sale. When it really boils down to, what it really boils down to is very simple. reconsider how you're selling. If you're not getting the results that you want, it's because a change is needed. Moving away from the McDonald's way that is passive with low price positioning to generating revenue in your business by booking a phone or Zoom call. I invite you to rethink your strategy if you want to close 5, 10, or 20K plus clients. You have to have sales calls. And this smoothly takes me into my next training point, which is the real reason you're losing sales, and it's not what you think. Let's face it, most of you probably hate the idea of sales calls, but it's also very likely that you've done them already, right? Like, give me a yes in the chat if you have. Either this has left you more confused with what to do or hating them more. You're probably wondering, well, what do I say? How do I get the client to say yes to me? And what if they say no? What if they say yes? And so the dread kicks in. When I started helping my creative friends with the sales, I noticed a trend. They didn't know how to ask the questions. This fascinated me because I'm like, oh, it's just a question. But after analyzing hundreds of sales calls, I could clearly see that there were questions that would make the lead retreat. They would shut the door, they would clam up, not wanting to share anymore. And it was all in the type of questions that were being asked. And here's why. I want you to think of the brain working like an onion. In order to get to the core, you have to go from one layer to the next. You cannot get to the core without peeling off the layers. So knives are out, because if you touch it with a knife, you've killed the sale. When you see this, it will seem so obvious to you, and still most people get this wrong. So what have we got? Okay. We have 3 types of layers in your brain onion. The primary layer are data-related questions. The secondary layer are questions that dig deeper, taking you into understanding of why the data is important. And the third layer is where the bond is created. And you can't get to the third layer without going through layer 2 and layer 1. So how does this play out? Let's say you jump on a call, and within the first 5 questions of never having met the person, you ask them about their budget. You do this before you've even established what the project is, which means you haven't gathered enough data and you haven't unpeeled layer 1. What happens in the mind of the client? They begin to feel distrust. Does this person actually care about me, or are they just thinking about the money they can make? This line of questioning is going to make them defensive and closed off. So instead of diving straight into the budget question, you show you care by spending a bit of time asking easier, non-invasive data questions that live in layer 1. The trust then increases as you dig deeper with layer 2 questions. This shows that you genuinely care about their issues, and then they feel that you have their back. And you know you're asking the right questions as each one stacks on the last one, getting you deeper and deeper to the core. When you then ask them about the budget, it will be so natural for them to reveal it, as it won't feel invasive or opportunistic. The beauty about this method is that it doesn't just result in you finding their budget. It will help you unveil their worries, their deepest challenges, and their deepest dreams, all of which will help you gain the sale effortlessly. Vivian was doing well enough on her sales calls, but upon analysis, I highlighted some of the tweaks she could make to change the flow. She implemented the changes, and her transformation was astounding. She got her clients to open up in a different way. And you know what? They volunteered information, and then they asked for the sale. Vivian didn't even need to sell. They literally sold themselves. And this is the power of asking the right questions. Okay, by this point, I'm sure you can see how easy sales can be, and it gets to be. And for the final bit of the training, I'm going to show how this tiny tweak will make 90% of clients like you instantly. Because who doesn't want instant likability? This is a good one to finish on, and it's a bit of fun, and it's incredibly powerful. So, truth be told, I came across a problem in my framework. I discovered that there was a missing piece in it. I taught my clients the 4 questions that they had to have answered on the sales call. They knew how the brain worked and how to ask the questions, and everything was there, but still something was missing. And remember how I said that most people think they get rejected because of price? This is going to show you that it isn't true. Analyzing their sales calls, I noticed that my clients weren't picking up on the obvious cues. I have a psychology background, and for me, it was clear as day. And I was doing this naturally, but my clients, they were missing it. That's when I realized they didn't know what to look out for. They didn't see the door opening. They didn't see when the clients were saying, yes, I'm interested. So going back to my restaurant days, I thought about how I used to train my staff. On training days, I would literally role play observation skills. I would train them to tune into sounds and behavior so you can read the room fast and effectively. In a room full of 60 people, they knew to listen to the sound of a scraping table, knife falling on the wooden floor, a change in tone even when the person who changed the tone was 5 tables away. I was not just training them to tune into body language, but more importantly, how to facilitate decisions and diffuse irritation, because we all know that the customer is always right. Their job was to manage the mood and ensure satisfaction. The only way they could do that is to know what the customer wanted. Now, if you're just 2 or 3 people in the restaurant, that's an easy task. But good servers are able to take a really big room full of people and still tune into the one without ignoring the 59. It's no different on a sales call. And if I could teach a person to observe 60 people, I could teach one person to observe the one. And I did. It all boiled down to nonverbal communication. And no matter how good the sales call on paper, if this element was missing, the call had the potential to completely break. And here's how. Most people are so focused on knowing exactly what to say, they completely forget that having a conversation is a two-way thing. If you've ever done any research about sales, you know that one of the first things they say and they tell you is to actively listen. Most people think they know how to listen, but they don't. I say forget about listening. Instead, I want you to be a sponge. I want you to be absorbing everything you see and hear. Because if we limit it to listening, you'll only be picking up on what they say and parrot it back to them. That won't do you any good. So be a sponge. Take it all in. And you can be a sponge by listening and observing. And you know that you didn't activate the sponge in you when someone said yes on the call and then they changed their mind afterwards. When you're a sponge, you pick up on nonverbal cues. And once you understand this, you realize how important it is for the sales calls. Finally, the framework was complete for me. The sponge really was the missing game-changing piece. The first part is all about understanding how to notice the changes in your client and how to process that information. Once processed, you learn how to respond in a way where your clients, they move closer to the yes. The second part is to become aware of your own nonverbal communication. Perhaps your voice constricts when sharing the price, or the tone becomes aggressive to hide the fear of rejection. Once you understand how to manage your own energy, it will impact the way you're communicating nonverbally and what you can do with that information. I mean, honestly, just by being a sponge, it's invaluable. And this is a story of Caro. We worked on their voice and delivery to help exude confidence, which earned them getting fully booked at the start of the next quarter. Imagine being able to have sales calls that feel like casual conversations. Imagine never having to push to get to sale. Imagine having the client saying, I want to work with you before you even get a chance to ask them. Imagine not having to justify your price. Imagine them seeing that you're valuable and they're seeing your value because you're able to communicate it. Imagine making more money because you know how to confidently talk about it. Well, this is the answer. If you want to be charging 10K plus, you'll want to be getting on calls. You want to sell through conversation selling where you never force a sale. You want to be asking the right questions by peeling the onions so much so that your leads ask to become your clients. You do all of this by being a sponge, by observing the nonverbal cues and using your nonverbal skills to facilitate the decision to gain the hell yes clients. The beauty of all of this is that once you know how to do this, it won't be scary. In fact, it'll be relaxed and simple. My clients use this method, and some do this so they can live the lifestyle of their dreams, like I do. I travel the world. I just came back from Paris. If I ask you to get real for a moment and take a proper look at how things have been going, how have things been running in your business, and how are you making the sales? I know you already know the importance of sales. It's the lifeblood of the business. You don't need to be told that. But if you take a real hard look at the past, how's that been going for you? And when you consider the power of sales call, especially if you want to be securing the higher paying clients who have 5, 10, or 20K plus budgets, you kind of have a decision to make. Are you going to leave this training, continue with the way things have been, or are you going to create the much needed change to have sales calls? And I think I will leave it at that and happily take questions. Let me stop the share.
Wow, brilliant. I could just like sit here and keep on listening to you, but I feel like that's your strength and value. And I could see that, so, the background in psychology playing really nicely into what you're doing today, which you do amazingly well. So thank you so much. I feel like we're blessed to having you here today and to kick off our new series of events with your event, with your presentation. It's really important. It really means a lot to me because I do care so much for all the people in this room and in our community. And I couldn't have wished for a better way for us to get started and get ready for a new year. So, and thank you, Lucy, because she ultimately introduced us, and I should always trust my Floxies. I'm sure that they must be burning with questions right now. So, girls, we have about 20 minutes, and you've seen how amazing of a speaker Ivy is. So, I would highly encourage you to, ask away. You can either unmute your mics, put your hands up using the emoji at the bottom, but I would really love to open up the floor to Q&A. And Ellie, you've got a question.
Thank you. Yes, so thank you very much for the presentation. And actually, I also wanted to make a comment. I think the way you presented is actually inspiring me for the sales call. I think the way you've presented this, the whole thing, you have presented yourself in a very professional way. And I think it would be great to follow such a path for the sales call. So thank you very much. And then I had two questions. I wanted to ask about what you mentioned, the pricing, because you mentioned that we should be talking about pricing right away. So I wanted to know if you recommend people like us to have pricing written on the website, for example, package starting from I don't know, 1,000 or 2,000, and also if you recommend that in the contact form on the website when people reach out, we already ask them like, what's your budget, and then what's your deadline?
Okay, really good questions. So on the pricing front, there is no rule whether you have something on the website or not. The results basically shows 50-50. I like the idea of from, because that doesn't bind you. And some people are price buyers, and that doesn't mean they won't pay a lot, but they need to kind of have an idea of what they're stepping into because they have tighter budgets. There are all types of buyers out there, some who need to know and some who are okay to find out and walk away and plan for it later. So you're going to find all of these different buyer types, and you kind of have to ask yourself, how do I want to operate my business? What do I want to do for myself? What feels good for me? And then that would be the best decision for you. If you're going to share your price, I would definitely go from rather than it is, because depending on the scope of work, it's always going to be difficult to actually have just one price. So sharing the price on the website, I think, is a question you have to ask yourself if it aligns with what you're doing and how you're doing it. There is an assumption that if the price isn't on the website, it's going to be high. Most premium sites, if we think about real estate, anything that is priced on application is going to be high. We make an assumption, no price, it's high. So you kind of need to do your market research and see, where am I positioned? What's my price positioning? Am I deemed on the pricier end, or am I not deemed on the pricier end? And if I'm not, because of the market research you've done, you could be doing yourself a disservice by not having from on your website. And if you are premium and you're charging 10K plus, let's just say in this example, it can be either or. You can say 10K or not. But if you're charging 1 to 2K for your websites, please raise your prices, everyone. But if you are charging 1 to 2K on the website, then you could be doing yourself a disservice by not sharing the price and putting that from on there, because you're still in the bracket of more affordability for a lot more people. So that's the first part. Did I answer the first part to your satisfaction?
Absolutely, thank you.
Amazing. And the second part was, I put down qualifying. Can you answer the second part of the question again?
Yes, sure. I was asking if on the contact form we should ask for budget already or not.
So there are many different ways you can do this. I usually recommend, if you're in a place where you're needing leads, get the booking in first. So don't pre-qualify if you're not getting enough leads. I want all of my clients to get more practice with sales. I mean, you saw me in the presentation, I said we need more sales practice. So I usually say, if you're not used to selling, just get everybody on the call, practice selling so you get familiar with the sales process. And for that, don't over-qualify in the beginning. I like a post-call booked questionnaire. So they book a call, you've got that in the diary, you send them a questionnaire so you can find the information that you need so that you can figure out whether they're qualified or not. And then based on that, you are then better equipped to actually have the sales conversation. When you get to that point where you don't have time to take sales calls, you can only sit on calls with people who are actually going to pay you, you get tighter on the pre-qualification. Asking what budget they have, they're not going to be honest about it. It's very, like, regardless of who you're speaking to, they're not going to be honest about their budget. It's too early to find out. So if you absolutely want to do this, a really good question would just be making it really broad. Do you have more or less than 5K for this? But remember, whatever you're putting on your form, it's going to prime them and anchor them to that price. So if you put 5K, they're going to think it's going to be 5K or below. And if you suddenly charge them 10K, it's going to be harder to do that. So you're priming them, you're anchoring them at a number by putting any number in your form. Yeah. Any other questions, follow-ups, Ellie?
No, thank you. That was quite clear. So basically, I also understand what you're saying, and I think it makes sense. Maybe if you publish your websites, if you publish your prices on your website, and then the client still reaches out, that means that the client would be more or less comfortable with the price point that you have shown. So maybe there is also no need to double, like, confirm or double ask. That makes total sense. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Are you showing your prices on the website at the moment?
At the moment, you will say I don't have a website really, but I'm building it right now and I want to have packages. So so that I wanted to price them and then show them, but I was wondering if it was the best way to proceed, but yeah.
It's a good way to start. If you're just kicking off, you're just starting right then. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm doing a bit like you said, usually we focus on websites and then we focus on social media. I'm not doing any of this. I'm doing money in and then money out. So first I book a client, then I put the money in stuff. Yes.
Perfect. Good luck, Ellie. Good luck.
Thank you.
You're now equipped with all the best practice to get started, Ellie. I can't wait. And share your updates. Obviously, we'd love to see how that's going for you. We've got a question from Anslia.
Hey there. Just wanted to say that this has been really informative. I almost didn't make it, but I'm glad I'm here. But I wanted to ask you about specifically cold emailing clients. Do you have any recommendations on what would be the best way to get people to want to jump into a call with me, because right now I'm getting plenty of leads coming to me and they all are happy to like jump into a call. However, I feel like I would do better with the cold leads that I'm reaching out to if we can get into a call and I can start pitching to them. However, it's been very difficult to like, I don't know, like the value proposition, I don't really know how to like get them to want to jump into a call with me, and I'm not sure if maybe I should go ahead and offer a way for them to book time with me, or perhaps maybe I should try to get a rapport with them. But I was just curious what your from your experience, what would be a recommendation you could make?
I'd love to answer your questions, but I have quite a few questions for you. Is it okay to ask them?
Of course, absolutely.
So you're saying that a lot of leads are coming in to you, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And are these leads converting for you?
Oops, sorry, Anslia. I just muted your mic because it was getting we were getting a little bit of echo. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, so when you're listening, Anslia, if you can just exactly mute like that. Brilliant.
Sure. Yeah, my mic's been acting up lately, but they are converting about 50% of the time. We're getting calls, I would say about 80% of the time. However, I'm mostly it's very difficult to like try to get the people that are that I want to work with onto a call. So I don't know if maybe the cold emails, if I should go ahead and try to encourage them to jump into a call with me, or if there is something else I could be doing to prove that.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the problem here. So you're getting leads coming through. You're converting about 50% of them. Can I ask you what you're charging?
So it's been kind of on like an hourly basis for a lot of these businesses. I've been trying to charge more, especially with the recent influx of new clients. I would say I'm charging about 2.5K per website, upwards to 4K for more complex things, especially if the scope includes like stores and stuff like that.
Okay. And as I understand it from what you're saying is that they're not your ideal clients, which is why you're wanting to go down the cold outreach avenue. Is that right? Did I understand you correctly?
Yes, I'm definitely looking for things like agencies. I definitely want to be on retainer. Like these clients that I'm getting, they're very nice, but they're very much one-off kind of projects. So they're not like they're fantastic, but long term, it's very difficult to like have these projects come in, complete them, and then I'm in the same position I was before. So I'm trying to get longer term clients and things like I'm reaching out to local agencies, but I haven't had much luck with that. So I was wondering if maybe I should try to focus on getting them into a call.
Okay. And just a few more questions, and I will answer your question. When you are, let's see, how are you getting these leads coming through? So you're saying leads are coming in. Can you share with me how they're coming in? Like how are they finding?
Mostly right now I'm getting them through Contra, as well as, so I'm a Framer expert, and Framer just launched its new expert platform, kind of like how Webflow has it. And I've been getting a lot of leads through that, and they're very good quality leads. It's just that they're mostly like, I need help fixing what somebody else broke. So it's a great experience, but it's not necessarily long-term stuff that I would ideally like to jump into.
Okay. When it comes to the reason I asked all these questions is because it sounds like you have leads coming in, and I'm trying to understand. There are very few people come to me and say, "Hey, I want to do cold outreach." I think you're probably just a third person who's come to me and said that. So I just wanted to kind of understand where the problem is. And now what I'm understanding is that you are getting leads coming through. There's not the kind of work that you're wanting to do. You're converting 50% of them, and you're charging between 2.5 and 4K per client. My first instinct would be to say, well, whatever you're charging, if they're not your ideal clients, just charge more, just double it and see where that takes you, because then you'll be doing less work and you'll be earning more. On the cold outreach front, know that when you do cold outreach, it's a rough conversion rate of about 2%. And it's a really tough, hard game. It's a volume game. So I am not the expert to speak to when it comes to cold outreach, because most of my people do the marketing to actually attract people in, because it actually converts higher. But if I were to look at cold email messaging and you're wanting to develop relationships with other agencies and put yourself on a retainer, I would hang out where they are. So similar to the way you were part of Framer, I think you said. Hang out in those areas, in those communities where you will find the other agencies. And that way you're not making a cold approach, you're actually making a tepid approach. And you can say, we have something in common. You and I both are in this community, or we met at this networking event. I would love to invite you for a coffee, and then go from there. So instead of just going completely cold and being a stranger, putting in a little bit more effort by being part of a community or being where they tend to be, your ideal clients, you're going to be in a better position to actually convert them in the long term, and your conversion rate will be higher. So I know I haven't completely answered your question, so why don't you ask me a follow-up question and we can see how else I can help you.
That's been really informative, actually. I am still trying to figure out where my community lies. And mostly it comes down to like whether or not like I'm wanting to, go and do a coffee meetup with somebody. I'm just curious how would I go about like figuring out what would be a valuable lead to pursue, especially within my network. I'm usually like more of a shotgun approach where I do a lot of things, but I'm trying to narrow my focus a little bit and try to build a more valuable way of like generating leads specifically, and like approaching people, and like how do I figure out who I should invest more time into, I suppose, if that's a good question to work with.
Yeah, so it sounds like you don't have a niche, and correct me if I'm wrong if you do, but ultimately it sounds like you don't have a niche. There you go. Lucy said the same, niching down. When you are niche and you're trying to figure out what that niche is for you, you will be much clearer on your actions in your business. You will know who you're speaking to, what their needs are, and everyone that I usually work with, they start here because niche marketing is the easiest way to actually market. If you're trying to figure out what your niche is, I look at several different things. One is like, what is my past experience? Who have I worked with in the past? And Anslia, you have these experiences. And then also, where do I have my strengths? What am I really good at? What comes naturally to me and what brings me joy? And somewhere in that Venn diagram, you're going to find your niche. There are many, many different ways. And I think we've got too short a time to actually go into the details of niching. But there are many resources out there that can help you try to niche. But I would say this, as long as you enjoy it, and as long as you know you enjoy it and you have the expertise to actually deliver on whatever they want, then that niche would work for you. So Lucy, am I okay to take you as an example? So Lucy and I have worked together, and when she came to me, it was clear as day for me that, oh, she's a past musician. It would make complete sense for her to actually do this. Lucy, do you want to share your experience yourself, or should I continue speaking for you?
You can. I was just typing a very long message in the chat saying, I know you have to leave on time, and then I'm also happy to do that when you're gone eventually.
Okay. Great. Okay. So Lucy can go deeper into her journey of niching. And she's also still in that place where she's validating that niche, because once you choose that niche, it doesn't have to be for life. There's a whole lot of work that goes into the business to try to figure out whether you're in the right place. You're doing the market research. You're validating your niche by making sure that you're in the right place, by asking the people who are in that niche. Once you've validated the niche, you start creating the marketing material and the strategy based on the messaging that you uncover from the market research that you do. And Anslia, that's kind of that's kind of the stage that you're at the moment. You're like, okay, I want to really focus all of my efforts, but I don't know where these efforts should be. It's because you don't have that first direction. And I think that's probably your best next step at this stage before you do any cold outreach.
Definitely appreciate your insight into this. I do feel like that I have not niched down in the way that I should. It's definitely been a very difficult year just because a lot of my previous clients were like voice actors and actors in general, and it's been kind of a rough couple of years. So I suppose I'm feeling a little lost there and trying to find a new niche. So I'll definitely take those suggestions and apply them to like my approach going forward. So I definitely do appreciate that.
So just a quick tip, look a little bit to just the periphery of voice actors and actors. Like, what are I usually call this, what are the unsexy parts of that niche? Everyone knows what actors are, but what is it that is adjacent to that people don't really think about? That could still, because it's so close in that niche, all of the work that you've done would still be related because you're just one step away. So always just look at the adjacent, more unsexier aspect of things, because it will still bring you joy because it'll be similar to what you've done in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great perspective on that. Thank you.
And also, Ansela, if I may, I know a former actor that's local to you, so I can very happy to make that connection and see if he can recommend you to his network. Speaking of referrals that we talked about in the presentation, but just to, explore, niching down a little bit more into what you think you'd like to explore more of.
That would be wonderful, actually.
Absolutely, I got you. And Ivy, Ellie says in the chat, what are your group programs? Can you please share a website? And obviously, Lucy already shared. This is one of them. So I've also shared your LinkedIn on, the live stream for everyone who's still watching us right now and here in the chat. So I hope you don't mind me sharing that with everyone here, but I'm sure they'd love to connect with you.
I'm really approachable. If you have any questions about what we've talked about here, or if you're curious about the programs, just send me a DM and we'll just take it from there. I have a resource which I didn't prep, but it's available on my LinkedIn. I'm pretty sure of it. There are 100 sales questions that you can use in the sales call, literally the same questions that all my clients use. And it's a really useful resource. So you can always download that. And if you can't find it, just send me a DM and I'll share the link with you.
Brilliant. And before I let you go, I see a question from Carla from YouTube here. And she says, what are some red flags that clients might not be the right fit for you?
I always think that you need to know your own values. You need to know how you like to operate, because ultimately my red flag won't be your red flag. So when you know yourself, you'll be able to know whether the flag is valid or not. So for example, I don't work weekends, and if someone demands that I be available on a Saturday, I'm like, no, that's not going to work. And if they're demanding in a certain way, it's a red flag. Red flags will be different for everyone, and one for you may be how quickly they respond, because when you're wanting to do the feedback round, it's going to delay your work if they don't feedback right on time. So how timely are they in the response? If they say, I'll come back to you in 3 days time before they become a client, and they don't, that's a flag. You need to address it. But that doesn't mean it's a flag that is a hell no. We also have to be open, like, did something medical happen or something like that? I'll make a post about red flags, and then, because we're running short on time here, I'll make a post on red flags and then we can take it from there.
Absolutely. I love that. And Ivy, thank you so much. Is there anything that our community can do for you?
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna leave you with that cliffhanger.
Have sales calls, please. Have sales calls. It would bring me such great joy if you had sales calls and practiced, and if you have wins, just share your wins with me. That brings me joy. So make your business grow, and that makes me happy.
That's a great mission, and I'll make sure I'll keep them accountable, and I'll remind them. Well, Ivy, thank you so much. I do hope we can, get together and go for that coffee in London. And this was absolutely fantastic. I'm excited to finally have met you today, and I'm feeling very inspired myself. So
thank you so much for having me. You've got such a great community. It's so chill and so relaxed. I love it. And good questions.
They're special. They're special, which is why we have special speakers as well.
Sweet. Thank you.
All right. Well, bye, everyone. Have a fantastic week, and I will see you all back in our Discord.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.